Hello viewers, welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a show where we will provide you fresh insights into South Asia's geopolitical, strategic and security situation. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Indian security forces launch operation against Pakistan-backed terrorists in Kashmir. America marks 22nd anniversary of 9/11 terror attacks. And Pakistan suffers due to homegrown violent extremism and terrorism. Let's begin the show with India's Jammu and Kashmir, which continues to fight Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. The Indian security forces have launched a joint operation against Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists who have been hiding in the higher reaches of the Anantnag district of South Kashmir. Till the filing of this report, the anti-terrorism operation was ongoing. We have this report.
The Army, the Police and the Central Reserve Police Force launched a joint security operation on the intervening night of September 12 and 13 in Garol village of Anantnag district. There was information that some terrorists of Pakistan's Lashkar-e-Taiba outfit are hiding in the hilly terrains. Security forces destroyed 2 terrorist hideouts during the operation and recovered arms and ammunition from these hideouts. Till the filing of this report, the security operation was ongoing and terrorists who are hiding in the mountainous jungle were encircled by the security forces. Modern equipment like drones and other high-tech gadgets are being used to conduct the operation. Union Minister General V.K. Singh launched a scathing attack on Pakistan for sponsoring terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir.
जब तक हम अलग थलग नहीं करेंगे पाकिस्तान को, नहीं तो उनके लिए बिजनेस एज नॉर्मल है। हाँ जी ठीक है, बॉलीवुड वाले आ जाएंगे हमारे यहाँ, क्रिकेट मैच खेलने वाले आ जाएंगे हमारे यहाँ, सब ठीक है, चंगा है जी, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। वही मैं कह रहा हूँ कि अगर उसके ऊपर दबाव डालना है तो उसको अलग थलग करना पड़ेगा। उनको पता चलना चाहिए कि आप नॉर्मल चीज़ों के अंदर हमारे साथ रिश्ता तब तक नहीं कर सकते जब तक आप खुद नॉर्मल नहीं हो।
India has lost many brave hearts because of Pakistan-sponsored terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. In Anantnag operation, Colonel Manpreet Singh, the commanding officer of 19 Rashtriya Rifles, Major Ashish Dhonchak, also from the same battalion, and DSP Humayun Muzammil Bhatt were killed in the gunfight with terrorists. A soldier was also died for his injuries during the encounter. The people in Jammu and Kashmir and rest of India are angry on Pakistan for disrupting peace in the region. Anti-Pakistan protests broke out in several parts of Jammu city against killing of security personnel. The Panoon Kashmir and the Ik Samatam Bharat Dal paid homage to the personnel and demanded a massive operation against the terrorist ecosystem in Jammu and Kashmir. Trade Federation Jammu also held a candle march and paid tribute to the security personnel killed in the encounter.
आज हम जब यहाँ उन वीर जवानों को श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए इकट्ठे हुए हैं जो अनंतनाग के अंदर आतंकवादी मुकाबले के अंदर उन्होंने अपने प्राण दे दिए। अनंतनाग के अंदर कायर आतंकवादियों ने घात लगाकर हमारी भारतीय सेना पर हमला किया है और इससे हमारे भारतीय सेना के कर्नल, मेजर और एक जे.एंड.के पुलिस के डीएसपी 6 लोग जो है शहीद हो गए। आज पूरा भारत देश जो है इस शहादत से गम में है।
I would say, this has been a consistent threat from Pakistan since the 1990s, especially after the withdrawal of the Soviet troops from Afghanistan. They have diverted most of the jihadi groups to Kashmir to fight a similar kind of war that was fought in Afghanistan. And probably the Afghan model, both of 1987-89 and also the model which we saw in after 2020 2021, the withdrawal of the US troop, has been that if they, the kind of argument some of the time people make, if the Taliban can fight the Soviet troop, if the Afghan can fight the Soviet troop in 1987, which led to the withdrawal of the Soviet troop and later the disintegration of Soviet Union, and later they could fight against the other superpower, which is the United States. So there is a strong belief that this jihadist group can deliver Pakistan its objectives in Kashmir, which they will not be able to do through diplomacy or through war, because we have fought 4 wars, so they have not got anything out of that war as far as Kashmir is concerned.
The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir is witnessing rapid development since after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A on August 2019. The people in the valley have also decried Pakistan-sponsored terrorism and have joined the path of peace and prosperity. Pakistan is infuriated and making all possible efforts to sponsor terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir by providing them financial and logistic support. India has been given a befitting reply to terrorism and its sponsors.
And now let's shift our focus to Pakistan, a country suffering with homegrown terrorism. The Taliban Pakistan is continuing to target security forces in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to show its dominance in the tribal region. Recently, they carried out a bomb blast on a vehicle of the security forces in Peshawar city. Such attacks clearly indicate the growing opposition against Pakistani security forces among the Pashtun community. We have this report.
Chaos, panic and bloodshed. A massive explosion rocked Pakistan's Peshawar on September 11. The incident resulted in the death of 1 paramilitary personnel and left 8 individuals injured, including 2 civilians. The explosion occurred near a hospital complex in Peshawar, the capital of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The intended target was a vehicle belonging to the Frontier Corps, a paramilitary force responsible for provincial security. The blast inflicted severe damage on the FC vehicle and nearby shops. The wounded were swiftly transported to a nearby hospital for treatment. The Taliban Pakistan claimed responsibility for the attack, citing retaliation for FC actions against its members. The group also issued threats of future attacks.
The Pakistani state is now perceived to be weak. It is perceived to be illegitimate. If you've noticed what has happened over the last 2 to 3 years, a government, a popular government, popular also in a manner of speaking, which was manipulated into power by the Pakistani military, was finally overthrown by the Pakistani military, and people who came in, who had some legitimate political base, they were also forced out of office. Right now, the people who govern Pakistan represent practically nobody. It is supposed to be a technocratic government, but it is a government without any popular base or support. It has no legitimacy. These particular groupings, TTP, which has the stated goal of establishing an Islamic order, fundamentalist Islamic order in Pakistan, they have become active. The Pakistan state was always non-existent out here. Now they have become active and they have started to take on the Pakistani military because they perceive that the morale of the Pakistani military right now is very, very low. So I would attribute this rise in activity to the manner in which the Pakistani state, particularly the Pakistani military, has conducted itself in the last 2 to 3 years.
The TTP, a terror group, has been engaged in a decade-long conflict with the Pakistani government, seeking to establish an Islamic caliphate in Pakistan. Since the resurgence of the Taliban in Afghanistan in August 2021, the TTP has intensified its attacks within Pakistan, placing the government on high alert. The TTP and the Afghan Taliban share a close relationship marked by shared training, weapons and funding, as well as coordinated attacks against both the Pakistani and Afghan governments. Recent years have seen this relationship grow even stronger, facilitated by the Afghan Taliban's control of vast border areas between Afghanistan and Pakistan, providing a fertile ground for TTP operations. The Pakistani government is deeply concerned about this alliance. They fear that TTP could use Afghanistan as a safe haven to launch attacks against Pakistan. The Pakistani government has tried to negotiate with the TTP, but the group has so far refused to lay down its arms. The government has also launched military operations against the TTP, but these operations have had limited success.
I think after Taliban took over power in Afghanistan, the TTP, which was a kind of ally of the Taliban in Afghanistan, they got emboldened. Number two is that earlier when you had Ghani government, though of course it did not take much action against the TTP, but after Taliban took over and the victory they achieved, through the peace deal, made the TTP feel like, they now have got a sanctuary which can be used against the Pakistan forces. Historically, they have been opposed against Pakistan forces. They consider Pakistan as un-Islamic. They have their own agenda of Islamization.
Pakistan's history of supporting Islamist extremists for geopolitical reasons has contributed to its current challenges. The conflict between the TTP and the government is intricate, with no straightforward solutions. The TTP remains steadfast in pursuing its ideology, while the Pakistani government grapples with issues like terrorism, poverty, and corruption. The resolution of this conflict remains uncertain, but its toll on Pakistan, both in terms of security and the economy, is devastating.
And the United States of America commemorated the 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks in which 3,000 lives were lost. Across the nation, ceremonies and gatherings were held as people came together at memorials and events to honor the victims and support their families. These coordinated attacks were a pivotal moment in American history. They led to military engagements in Afghanistan and Iraq and left a lasting impact on American society. We have the special report.
On the 22nd anniversary of the deadliest terror attacks on US soil, Americans came together in a display of unity and remembrance. At ceremonies held nationwide, relatives and survivors gathered to pay tribute to the nearly 3,000 innocent lives lost in the tragic attack by Al-Qaeda terror outfit. Commemorative events unfolded on September 11th at the very sites where the attacks occurred, at New York's World Trade Center, the Pentagon in Virginia, Shanksville, Pennsylvania. President Joe Biden observed the day in Alaska, adding his solemn tribute to the nation's collective remembrance.
My fellow Americans, September 11th, 2001 tested our strength, our resolve, and our courage. The billowing smoke and ash that darkened the clear blue sky that September day. The shredded steel and concrete slabs that rained down from the World Trade Center. The plume of fire that shot up in the sky in Pentagon. I remember seeing as I got off the Amtrak train on my way to work in the United States Senate. The pit into the earth in Shanksville, a testament to the unbreakable courage and resolve of the American people. But we'll never forget that when faced with evil and an enemy who sought to tear us apart, we endured. We endured.
In a flashback on September 11, 2001, a tragic and devastating event unfolded in the United States. It was a bright and clear morning when 19 terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airplanes. The first plane, American Airlines Flight 11, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City at 8:46 in the morning. Shortly after, at 9:03 a.m., the second plane, United Airlines Flight 175, struck the South Tower of the World Trade Center. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense in Arlington, Virginia. The symbol of American military might was now a scene of devastation. Meanwhile, the passengers of United Airlines Flight 93, aware of the other attacks, fought back against their hijackers. The plane ultimately crashed into a field in Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m., likely saving countless lives in Washington, D.C., where it had been headed. Back in New York City, the situation deteriorated rapidly. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed, followed by the North Tower at 10:28 a.m. The entire nation watched in shock and grief as nearly 3,000 innocent lives were lost in the 9/11 attacks.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America.
This deadly attack was orchestrated by Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. Before the attack, Al-Qaeda issued proclamations that provide insight into the motivations for the attacks. In his November 2002 letter to America, Osama bin Laden outlined Al-Qaeda's motivations behind the 9/11 attacks. Following the 9/11 attacks, the United States started a massive hunt to find and take down Osama bin Laden. This long search came to an end on May 2, 2011. President Barack Obama led a carefully planned mission called Operation Neptune Spear, carried out by highly skilled Navy SEALs. Their target was a heavily fortified compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, where it was believed that Osama bin Laden had been hiding for years. With precision and unwavering determination, they located and eliminated Osama bin Laden, bringing an end to a decade-long manhunt.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. It was nearly 10 years ago that a bright September day was darkened by the worst attack on the American people in our history. The images of 9/11 are seared into our national memory.
The September 11 attacks had a profound impact on the United States and the world. The attacks led to the United States launching the war on terror, which has had a significant impact on global politics and security. The world must never forget the victims of the September 11 attacks and must continue to fight against terrorism in all its forms.
And moving on, the relations between Pakistan and Taliban-ruled Afghanistan are getting worse as the key border crossing remains closed between the two neighbours. The trade and people's movement remained halted at the Torkham border crossing for the past several days due to an exchange of fire between the Afghan and Pakistani security forces. We have this report.
Hundreds of trucks carrying essential goods have been stranded on both sides since the crossing in Pakistan's northwest was shut down after an exchange of fire in a dispute over an under-construction Afghan outpost. The Torkham border point is the main point of transit for travelers and goods between Pakistan and landlocked Afghanistan. Pakistan said the Taliban administration had tried to encroach on its territory with the construction of an unlawful structure and accused Afghan forces of indiscriminate firing in an incident that led to the closure of the main border transit point. With the disruption of the transit of trucks, the loading of goods in the southern port of Karachi has been disrupted. The two countries have been trading blame over border issues and armed attacks for months.
उधर से पैरंग में या इधर से पैरंग में गलस गुलस शुरू हो गया और बस हम लोग इधर गाड़ी के नीचे कर कभी उस तरफ लोग भागते हैं बस पता नहीं चलता खुद जंग हो गया बस अभी तकरीबन 1 घंटा या 1.5 घंटा हो गया फिर बस किया झगड़ा ख़त्म हो गया लेकिन मुसीबत यह है कि हम लोग पैसा मैसा हमारे पास नहीं है.
Pakistan is in the grip of an economic downturn, while Afghanistan is still struggling to revive its economy due to its international isolation more than 2 years after the Taliban took over Kabul. Disputes linked to the 1,615-mile border have been a bone of contention between the neighbors for decades.
दुकान हमदाल د چولو दुकान ده او کورخه او چولې خرڅو او کورونه افغانستان کې د کار هم کوو پرون پیول بجې باندې دازه شولې دازه کې مو سر سر ډک بډک کې خو دکان کې او دکانونه مرا بند کړو بس نو لاړ وو تختیدو.
Pakistan was one of the 3 nations to grant formal recognition to the previous Taliban government of 1996 to 2001. But like all other countries, Pakistan has withheld recognition of the current Taliban administration. Diplomatic ties have also frayed over frequent flare-ups along their border, including sporadic gunfights and crossing closures. Islamabad also complains Kabul is failing to secure its frontier, a colonial-era demarcation that every Afghan government has disputed, allowing armed group fighters to cross and strike on Pakistan's soil. According to the Pakistan Institute for Conflict and Security Studies, there was an increase in attacks of almost 80% in the first half of 2023 compared to last year.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@nin.com. This is Lipakshi Khurana signing off on behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.